Tonight, somewhere in your home, a descendant of a predator is sleeping. Maybe at the foot of your bed, maybe curled against your child, maybe pressed against your leg, breathing slowly, ears twitching at sounds you cannot hear. You feel safer because of it. Think about how strange that is. 30,000 years ago, the animal now snoring beside you was the reason your ancestors could not sleep. It moved through the darkness on silent paws. It watched their fires from the tree line. It weighed their children with yellow eyes. And somehow, across thousands of generations, this creature crossed a line no other predator has ever fully crossed. It walked out of the darkness, past the spears, past the fire, past the sleeping bodies, and into the very center of the human family. Why? Why would anyone holding a stone-tipped spear and a hungry child behind them ever lower that weapon and let a wolf come closer? That is the question. And the answer is stranger, older, and more human than almost anything we tell ourselves about dogs. Picture a camp at the edge of an Ice Age forest. The fire is low. The wind carries the smell of blood from the day's butchery, and that smell travels far. Beyond the light, something is already listening. Something with a brain almost as social as yours. Now imagine you are the one keeping watch. You see the eyes first, 2 points reflecting the firelight. Then a second pair. Then a third. They do not rush. They do not retreat. They simply wait, at a distance you have come to recognize. You have seen this particular animal before. You know the shape of its shoulders. You know the small notch in its ear. You know it does not step past a certain invisible line in the dirt. And here's the thing most of us never think about. That line was not drawn by the human. It was respected by the wolf. For a long time, scientists imagined that domestication began with a kind and curious ancestor scooping up a wolf pup and raising it like a baby. It's a lovely story. It's almost certainly wrong, because a wolf pup grows. And what it grows into is 100 pounds of muscle, memory, and instinct, standing near your food and your sleeping children. The real beginning was quieter than that. Slower, colder, more cautious. It probably began the first time a human decided not to throw a spear. Think about that decision. Not affection, not love, just restraint. A pause. A choice. Made once, then made again, then made 100 nights in a row, by people who had every reason to kill and every reason to fear. Anthropologists studying how humans really categorize animals have found something surprising. We don't just see wolf as one thing, we see individuals. The one that always retreats, the one that limps, the one with the scar. Ancient people almost certainly did the same. They didn't trust wolves. They tolerated a wolf, a specific one, the predictable one. And predictability, out there in the dark, was worth more than gold. Because here's a truth every hunter knew. The wolf you can see is less dangerous than the wolf you cannot. The animal whose habits you understand is safer than the stranger padding silently behind you. Familiarity, in that world, was a kind of armor. So a strange truce began. Humans left scraps at the edge of camp, not out of kindness, out of calculation. The bones drew the familiar wolf. The familiar wolf drove off the unfamiliar ones. The camp slept a little deeper. The wolf ate a little better. And nothing had to be said, or named, or decided, for this arrangement to keep repeating, night after night, generation after generation. But something else was happening at the same time. And this is the part that changes how you understand yourself. Humans and wolves were not opposites. They were mirrors. Both hunted in groups. Both defended their young for years. Both tracked absent members, punished disruption, taught the young, and read the intentions of others by watching their eyes. Both lived and died by the strength of the group. When a human watched a pack coordinate around a wounded elk, they weren't watching a mindless predator. They were watching another version of themselves. Another social animal, solving the same problems, with different tools. And a wolf watching a human camp saw something equally strange. Creatures that shared food, that cared for the sick, that worked together across distances, that grieved. Two species, staring across the fire, recognizing something. This is why it wasn't the bear. It wasn't the lion. It wasn't the leopard, which is stronger, or the fox, which is smaller and easier to catch. It was the wolf. Because the wolf already had, inside its skull, most of the wiring humans needed. Cooperation, loyalty to a group, the ability to read another mind's attention. Humans didn't teach wolves how to cooperate. They redirected a cooperation that was already there. And here is where the mystery deepens. Because we still cannot point to the first dog. We have no skeleton, no burial, no bone that says, this one, this was the moment. The oldest genome-confirmed dogs lived more than 14,000 years ago, already spread across Europe and Anatolia, already moving between human groups that spoke different languages, believed different things, buried their dead in different ways. Dogs, it turns out, were crossing human borders long before humans had drawn most of them. which means the real transformation happened earlier, invisibly, in the space between species, in the darkness just beyond the fire, over thousands of years, while behaviors changed long before bones did. Now imagine a night, somewhere in that long invisible middle. A hunter falls sick. He cannot move. His hands shake. His breath sounds wrong. And beside him, curled against the hides, lies a young canid that has followed the group for months. It could leave. There is nothing holding it there. No rope, no cage. But it does not leave. We know moments like this happened, because we found one of them. In a grave in what is now Germany, a young dog, sick for most of its short life, was buried beside two humans. That dog could not hunt. It could not guard. For weeks, it needed water carried to its mouth. It needed warmth. It needed care. They gave it care anyway. And then, when it died, they laid it in the earth beside them, as if it belonged there. Something had changed. Something enormous. Because for the first time in the history of our species, a human being had extended the boundary of family across the boundary of species. They had decided that the life of an animal that could no longer be useful, was still worth protecting. That decision is still living inside you. When you turn your head because the dog turned its head, you are running an Ice Age program. When you feel safer sleeping because something at the foot of the bed is listening for you, you are borrowing wolf senses the way your ancestors did. When you speak to a dog like it understands, part of it does. Not the words, the attention behind them. And when a dog dies, and the house feels wrong, and the silence in the corner where it slept feels physically heavy, you are grieving the exact way humans have grieved this particular animal for at least 14,000 years. We tell ourselves we domesticated the wolf. It is more honest to say we met it halfway. Two species, standing on opposite sides of a fire, each capable of killing the other, each choosing, over and over, not to. There was no single moment of trust. There was only the long, patient accumulation of nights that did not end in violence. Restraint, repeated until it became relationship. Relationship, repeated until it became love. And this is perhaps the strangest thing our ancestors ever did. Long before they built cities, or wrote words, or planted seeds, they discovered something no other species had ever managed to hold on to for this long. They discovered that the boundary of family does not have to end at the edge of your own kind. That the mind on the other side of the fire could become the mind at your side. That an enemy, given enough patience, could become someone whose absence you cannot bear. The wolf did not walk into our world. We walked, slowly, carefully, over thousands of generations, into a world we could share. And every dog alive today is a message from that world, still reminding us of something we almost forgot about ourselves. That we were never quite as alone on this planet as we thought. If you enjoyed this video, subscribe to Back Times, hit the bell icon, and share this video with someone who loves history.